had an argument with a kid in high school. He was trying to convince me why pre-calc was important. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll never use pre-calc in my life.
Never.
And he goes, pre-calc is so important. Like you have to understand it for like microwaves. And I go, I press like 1 and start. I don't need to understand.
Popcorn, 30 seconds.
In 10th grade, I literally thought he was telling me I needed pre-calc to run a microwave, but I think he was talking about microwaves, not like nuking stuff. Hey, welcome to NewWayStories, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I am your host. We are a comedy podcast that talks about creativity and other things, writing, comedy.
Sometimes we're a comedy podcast.
Sometimes. We always attempt to be a comedy podcast. And but we talk about creative things and ultimately we devolve movies and everything else. This is Ben Salazar. He is our producer extraordinaire. And usually with us is Darius, but he got stuck in a traffic jam, and so we fired him. Yeah. No, we didn't fire him. He will hopefully be with us sooner rather than later. While he's not here, we are going to talk something that I think appeals to everyone. Yep. And that's the Central Washington State Fair. It's the fair that happens here in Yakima, which is where we're recording from. Mm-hmm. And listen, it's a pastime. It's something that you do.
Yep.
Growing up, you have to do it. Growing up, though, you went on Snyder's Day, which is like, if you're not in Yakima, it's bread that you buy, and there's a stamp, and you get a coupon for your ride wristband. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. I don't really ride rides now because I'm a little bit older. My equilibrium has been thrown off, and any sort of spin throws me into immediate nausea. So fair rides, not my bag. But you still go, you look at the animals, you look at RVs. You have no intention of buying RVs or a hot tub.
You check out a band. It's always a cover band.
Okay, here is the main thing that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
The Central Washington State Fair is a standard fair. Okay. Yep. It's, nothing flashy. You get your fried food. You get to check out a few businesses. Nothing crazy. What has always happened in the past is that they have had bands that are from the 70s or 80s, right? They've got Foreigner was there one year. I got to see Kenny Loggins live. Mm-hmm. I got to see Weird Al Yankovic at the Central Washington State Fair one year.
Smash Mouth was there one
Smash Mouth. Usually they have like a budding country star, a decent Christian artist, decent, in popularity. This year, though, they decided only cover bands.
Yeah.
They didn't bring in a single real band. Mm-mm. And it irks me. And I've brought it up to like a dozen people, and I feel like not a single person has matched my incredulous attitude for bringing in cover bands. They go, well, now the concerts are free. I go, yeah, because I can go to any bar any Friday or Saturday night and watch cover bands. You guessed it, for free.
And it's not really for free. I paid $20 to get in.
And it's not really for free. You pay $20. Here's my thing. Here's what I was complaining to Kate about it all week and a few weeks before that as well. And so to her, I said, this is the last time I'm going to complain about it.
Yep.
But here's my final stamp. We went to the fair one time. I think bringing in bands would get me to come to the fair potentially 2 or 3 times throughout the 10 days that it is happening, right? You got to go, right? So we went our one time. We saw everything. We were there for 4 or 5 hours. Mm-hmm. I ate a foot-long corn dog. You get a block of curly fries. Fair stuff. But if I went and then I also saw that, I don't know, 38 Special or fill in the blank of another Ram Jam. If Ram Jam was there, I would have definitely gone. Now, here's the irony, and I'll let you talk here in a second.
That's okay.
Here's the irony, is that most of these 70s and 80s rock bands are glorified cover bands. Because you've got one original member who's like the drummer, And he's just like, we're still Def Leppard. And you go, well,
It's like the boat thing. You replace every part of the boat. Is it still the same boat?
Is it still the same boat? Yeah. Is it still the same guy who chiseled Mount Rushmore?
Mm-hmm.
Not to compare 80s hair metal with Mount Rushmore, but the same thought. The same thought is there. If you take everybody away except Bret Michaels, is it still Poison? Bret Michaels is Poison. Every rose, has its thorns. How did you have any strong opinions on this? I mean, you're an artist, a musician.
I'm not really there for the music. Most of the time, they sound bad anyways. Whoever mixes it's not very good. There was one band, they were doing cover songs, but it was like they would at least like do their own version of it. I forget what song it was, but it was like their own take on it. And I was like, oh, that's different. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And like no one was watching them. And I was like, everyone needs to be listening to these guys right now.
At least it was some sort of creative.
Yeah.
There was a Toby Keith guy, which in the Fair's defense, it's tough to get him now. You can check our previous podcast on how much I love Toby Keith. But oh man, it's just, you have cover bands that play. So at the Central Washington State Fair, I'm sure it's like a similar formula for all fairs, but you got the Pepsi stage, which is like the community, when I was there, it was like some middle school cheerleading thing that was doing their routine. I didn't stay and watch it, just walked by. I just happened to notice.
There was also
I saw the judgmental look in your eye.
No, I wasn't judging.
But then they have like an all ladies AC/DC cover band called Hell's Bells. Okay. You're playing on the community Pepsi stage. Like I'm walking by as I'm getting fried food and I'm like, oh, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. I go, great point made. And they're doing a decent cover.
Yeah.
That's a fun, like atmospherical thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to watch a guy, this like Eric Church cover band. Okay. Apparently this guy's like a German sensation.
Oh.
I don't know, but I didn't stay around long enough to
find out.
Yeah, I'm not sitting down to like watch you do someone else's song, right?
Well, okay, also here's another, but okay. One of the last bands we saw before we left for the night was a Queen cover band.
Yeah.
And I'll probably never see Queen live. Sure.
And again, tough to bring Freddie back.
And so like, just for a moment, I was like, I try to convince myself this might have been what it was like.
Dude, long time ago, I had a short stint selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door.
Okay.
And I was doing this guy's, I was doing the whole thing in his house and I saw an AC/DC like VIP thing and I go, oh shoot, man, you went to AC/DC, like had a VIP? Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, it was awesome. Like it was such a good concert. He goes, it actually wasn't AC/DC. It was a cover band, but to me, they were as good as the real thing. So like for me, it was pretty much the same. And I go, oh man, that's awesome. But the whole time I'm thinking like, guy is an idiot. It's clearly not the same. It's clearly not the same thing.
Let him believe it.
It's an imitation. I mean, if you want to believe it, go for it.
There was a Nirvana.
I can't believe it's not butter. I can. I can believe that it's not butter.
There was a Nirvana cover band at the Seasons, and I saw it. I thought about it, but I didn't go.
Yeah. The Seasons tried to do that for a little while. They tried to bring in the cover bands and to nobody's surprise, the Seasons is now trying to be sold because they're not making rent. Because bringing in a cover band is not a viable business strategy unless you're a bar that you just want someone playing bangers for an atmospherical thing. It's the same.
So people can buy drinks and convince themselves that it's the real thing.
Exactly. It's the same as a jukebox. It's just live music. It's fun. And listen, if you're a cover band, if you play weddings, that's all people want to hear. Nobody wants to hear. There are certain places that cover band is appropriate. If I'm hanging out at a bar with my friends and then somebody plays Tom Petty Last Dance with Mary Jane in the background. Like, I'm going to chant and sing along when it gets to the correct part.
Yep.
If you're at a wedding, nobody wants to hear your crappy original song. They just want to hear some great covers of great love songs.
I always attribute it to, I feel like Yakima, the reason why Yakima has so many cover bands, and you see them at every bar, at every open mic, all the time, is that Yakima, at least the music scene, does not have its own voice. So all it's doing is imitating people. So
we're the AI of bands.
Yes.
The Yakima music scene. Yeah. And we're getting there. I don't know if we're actually getting there.
I had good food though at the fair.
Good food. Yeah. And listen, I also watched the little pig races, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It was hilarious and a ton of fun.
And which one did you eat after?
I don't know. They didn't name it. That was, you had to pay extra to find out. They also had camel rides.
Yeah.
Which I think, here's the thing. The camel rides were provided by Pacific Northwest Camel Company. What a niche business. What a niche business.
Where are you keeping these camels?
Dude, I don't know, man. I also would really be thrown off if I was, in Yakima seeing like cows being transferred or horses.
It's like,
Not a strange thing. I would be thrown off if I saw a camel going down the highway. Maybe they ride them. They ride them there. They go, hey, it can get up to 60 miles an hour. Like this guy, I don't know how fast camels can run.
I don't think they
My
go
guess
that fast.
is actually 35.
Okay, let's look it up.
35.
How fast can
I actually feel pretty good about 35 miles an hour.
40.
You're saying 40?
The internet says 40.
The internet says 40. See, I knew I was.
You're pretty close.
I didn't want to go over. 40 was in my head. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, 40 miles an hour. That's insane. Well, that's enough about the fair. I was so irked by this like cover band. And I think it's an insult to me that it's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna do cover bands. And I think it also, if we're talking about these hard economic times, 70s and 80s rockers rely on the local fair circuit.
Yeah, they do.
And so you're ripping that out from them. And it's just, the Central Washington State Fair is like, hey, it's time for you to go into a retirement home. You got to stop touring. And I don't think that that's fair. I think they have to make the decision, not the Central Washington State Fair.
More power to the people.
All right. It is Halloween month, season. Here, I'm gonna do a thing each week through October. I'm gonna give you 3 recs of books.
Yep.
And 3 recs of movies.
Nice.
And hopefully these are books and movies that you maybe have not seen or read yet. And if you're looking for a kind of spooky entertainment vibe, you can, you check these out. So here we go. You want books or movies first?
Let's do books.
Let's do books. Everybody's not nearly as excited about books.
I'm excited.
Here's the first one.
Okay.
Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Never heard of it.
You hear me talk about it all the time. This is maybe my favorite book all time.
Yeah.
It's so good. And we've all seen the movie. But listen, the book...
The one with Chris Pratt?
The book is... No. God, you can... Listen, I don't mind actually the first Jurassic World.
Haven't seen it.
First Jurassic World, pretty good. Chris Pratt is funny in it.
Chris Pratt.
But Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton, and you can go ahead and read Jurassic World as well. We'll lump that in as one thing. But it's a genuine like thriller, suspense, and it's awesome. And the way Michael Crichton writes it, it's amazing. And when I was reading it in my head, I was only reading it in Goldblum's voice. So I don't know.
Thing?
I hope that... I don't think he does. I think actually Scott Brick reads Jurassic Park, who is another good like audiobook guy. But they need to get Goldblum to read it. That's who was in my head when I was reading it.
You don't think that's too like it's too? I don't know how else to describe it. You don't think Goldblum reading it is too flavorful?
I don't know, man. Goldblum leans into his eccentric nature, and I think. Especially now that he's been famous for it, he really leans into it. But you can see him in straight drama roles, especially early on, like in The Fly. Like, he's Goldblum, but he's not like
So he can tone it down.
Yeah. He can tone it down. He's an actor after all. That's all right. The next one I just finished.
I thought it was just him. He was walking on set.
I just finished this book. It's called I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is kind of the current guy. NPR, New York Times. They'll be like, he's the best writer out there right now, especially for like horror stuff. He got a lot of notoriety for a book called Only Good Indians, which was also pretty good. He's a Native American dude, lives in Texas, but writes horror stuff. And this is kind of like an ode to like 80s slasher
That's cool.
movies. It's set in the 80s. Good stuff. This one has been my favorite. I feel like all of the other Stephen Graham Jones stuff, I'm like, I know that this is good and I recognize that it's good, but it is taking me a long time to get through it because I think maybe I'm not smart enough for it.
Yeah.
I Was a Teenage Slasher. I didn't have that feeling. So
That's okay.
I Was a Teenage Slasher, Stephen Graham Jones. Number 3, Beast, Peter Benchley. This is the guy who wrote Jaws.
Oh.
The novel Jaws. Have you not seen OG Jaws?
No, but I know we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah. Okay, great. The original Jaws movie is awesome, and I don't think the book is as good, but Beast is about a giant squid.
Okay.
And I'm terrified of giant squids. So I was genuinely like terrified the entire time I read this book, and I like it. And I also just like for Rat Race, I straight up like stole this guy's kind of model. In the intro, he introduces these two characters that are doing this like boat tour, and you kind of like get in, you're like learning about these characters and you think that they're going to be the main characters, and then the giant squid kills them, and then it moves on to the rest of the story. Wow. So I did that with Rat Race.
So you're telling me that artists steal from each other?
Oh yeah. So all of Rat Race is stolen, and I rely on pop culture movie quotes for jokes. Yeah. So I don't even write original jokes in it. Side note.
Yep.
About Rat Race. My friend brought this up. A 4-star review on Amazon. So 4 stars.
That's not bad. That's pretty good.
I'm not complaining. I've had a bunch of 5 stars and 2 4-star reviews. Anyway, but in his comment, he said 4 stars. He goes, only one scene from the rat's point of view, mostly from the human's point of view.
Okay.
Right. I mean, are you knocking me a star because I didn't do more
rat POV
in the rat POV? And I wrote the rat POV, and because I think I didn't want to give away exactly what the monster was, even though I know it's Rat Race and I have a picture on the cover, but I didn't want to say these are giant rats. And so I kind of did the rat POV, and then I was like, I don't think it's interesting. You
should do a short story of just one scene from the rat's perspective, in the kind of like Lion King 1 point whatever.
Like 1.5. Yeah,
1.5
from Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah, but do it from one of the rats.
Which, side note, they're like stealing that scene or that concept for Mufasa. Because Timon and Pumbaa are like, why don't you tell a story with us in it? And it's just like, all right, so we've figured out a way to get Timon and Pumbaa in this story.
Yep.
But they have no, it's like
they're not in.
They're leaning into these are funny characters. Anyway, I don't know about that Mufasa movie.
Beast, I love that quote.
Peter Benchley, also really funny. I checked this out from the Chicago Library, and the only book they had was the large print book for old people, and so I had this like huge book. And when I was reading it in coffee shops, it holds like 10 words per page right now. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
It was like a 500-page book, but I'm just tearing through pages because it's like so little.
Who's this genius in this?
Yeah, it was great. All right, on to movies. Yeah. I am giving you movies that are funny, but also scary.
Spooky.
Horror, comedy. It is my favorite genre.
Paramedy.
That sounds like a Muslim holiday. So,
horror.
And then I'll also give you where you can watch them.
Oh, that's helpful.
So, I'm really trying to go above and beyond. Here is the first one. Ready or not?
Here I come.
You can't hide. I'm going to find you.
Yep.
So Ready or Not on Hulu.
Yep.
Basic concept here, if you have not seen it, a family is cursed, and when a new marriage happens, they have to play a game at night. And typically, you draw what game it is, and it's just like, oh, charades. Okay, we play a game, and nothing really happens. But if you choose hide and seek, the goal is that you have to kill the bride.
Why would you have to do that?
Because they're cursed.
So wait,
it's a family curse, and you don't know if it's a real curse or not, or if this family is just crazy, right? So it's really funny, but
it doesn't sound funny. It sounds scary.
But it's intense. It's very funny, but it's also intense. And so then this, bride is like running for her life.
She's the new.
She's about to be a part of the family.
And what if she wins? Then that's it.
Then you have to. So what the family says is if they don't kill her by sunup, then like the whole family dies.
Now, is this like only hide and seek? Because you said other games. Like, do they have to kill her in charades too?
No. So if it's not hide and seek, then she just becomes a part of the family. But she also gets the curse if the curse is real, right? So they have like probably 5 or 6 kind of quote unquote new spouses or people who have been a part of the family for years now. And they're like, hey, this is kind of a crazy thing they do. When I was here, we had to play Monopoly.
Oh, easy.
And then it's like you play Monopoly, now you're a part of the family. But if you get hide and seek, you got to kill the spouse. And so they get hide and seek. That's why it's called Ready or Not.
Yeah.
You see what
clever.
So super funny. It's gory.
Does the husband have to?
Side note, all of these movies that I'm going to recommend are gory and have language in them.
Yeah. Does the husband have to kill his own bride?
I don't think it's specified that he's got to do it, but someone's got to do it.
Man.
And it's kind of like it. Did you watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil? I've told you about it.
Yeah, probably.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil, great. Not an official rec today, but that one is more of like a spoof per se. This one is like a real horror movie, but they've like worked in like really funny moments and like how the characters kind of respond to intense situations is funny. Ready or Not on Hulu. The next one came out last year, 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago. Renfield.
Yes.
With Nick Cage and Nicholas Hoult. It's incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Awkwafina is in there as well. If you enjoy her, I don't, but I know some people do. The only reason, I think we've talked about it before. The only reason I don't enjoy her is because
she's Asian.
Yeah.
No.
How did you know? No. I just think she does literally the same bit.
Thing, yes.
And I know it's hypocritical because I think she does the same bit over and over again, and I don't like it enough to be like, oh, thank God Awkwafina's brand is in here. Where Will Ferrell does something, and I recognize Anchorman, Talladega Nights, like
it's
Semi-Pro. It's Will Ferrell, but I happen to like Will Ferrell a lot.
Or like Jack Black, he's been doing a lot of the same stuff. I don't know if you saw the Minecraft trailer.
No.
It's bad.
There's a Minecraft. I think Jack Black is just doing stuff that he wants and doesn't care.
That's exactly,
and gets a paycheck. Because I heard Borderlands was like the worst movie
ever made, yeah.
Yeah. So Renfield, Nicolas Cage is Dracula in modern day.
So good.
And Renfield, who is Dracula's like assistant, that's played by Nicholas Hoult. So funny. It's in New Orleans. It is creepy. It's, Nick Cage. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a huge Nick Cage fan.
Yeah.
Even when he was not cool, when he was not doing good stuff, I've always been on the Nick Cage bandwagon.
What was he doing? Is this something we should get into or off pod?
What was he doing?
Yeah, well, I don't remember.
Like as Dracula?
No, as Nick Cage. I don't remember this.
The story, I mean, he was at his height in the 90s, right?
Okay.
And he was also spending money at an insane clip. And so he like had to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I think it was taxes involved as well.
Yeah.
And so then for like 10 years, he just had to do like crappy movies to get paychecks, as many paychecks as possible so that he could get out of this hole. And he made some interesting movie choices as well through all of that.
Ghost Rider.
But it's so funny just the like how you can be at your height and like win an Oscar and then also be in Ghost Rider, right? Like, yeah. Or not The Witcher, but there's like another one where he's a witch hunt. Oh, it might be called Witch Hunter. That's all real bad, but he's great in Renfield as Dracula. And I really like Nicholas Hoult too. I think he's a good actor.
Yeah. All
right. Last one. Dead Don't Die. Dead Don't Die. Directed by Jim Jarmusch.
They do die.
No, not in this one. It's a zombie film.
Oh.
Dead Don't Die. Jim Jarmusch, who is like kind of like an artsy, very respected in the independent film world.
Yeah.
He did a movie called Coffee and Cigarettes that is incredible.
Mm-hmm. What a good combo.
Yeah. So you actually would probably love that movie. It's just a clip or scenes of people having conversations over coffee and cigarettes. Mm-hmm. And one of them is the Wu-Tang Clan and Bill Murray in a diner.
What the heck?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Awesome. And
what a weird combo that after hearing it, I'm like, I need to see that.
One of the guys from the Wu-Tang Clan is in Dead Don't Die, and he's for UPS, right? He's a delivery guy for UPS, but in the background on the side of the truck, it says WUPS. Yeah. So, Adam Driver, Bill Murray, Tilda Swinton, Danny Glover, Steve Buscemi, like Tom Waits. It's the cast is insane, and it's so funny. It's they're doing Iggy Pop is a zombie in it.
Are you serious?
And the guy who does also there's like a group of teenagers that is Elvis and Austin Butler. And oh my gosh, why can I not remember any of these names?
Well, who they played?
She's from Murder.
Selena Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Selena Gomez, Austin Butler, another guy who's not as famous. So it's an insane cast.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Unfortunately, you have to rent this on Prime. It's not streaming anywhere.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it's so good. And the theme song is written by Sturgill Simpson, who is a guy I super respect. Dead Don't Die. What a banger of a tune.
RZA.
Yeah. Dead Don't Die. This will get you started for your spooky time. Your spooky time stuff.
Spooky time
Your
stuff.
spooky time stuff. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for indulging me on talking about
those are great
local fairs and good spooky time recs. Let's get into what I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about unsolicited advice.
Yep.
And is it a good thing or bad thing? Should you give it? That's what
should you receive it?
No, we're not talking about. I think generally speaking, you should not give unsolicited advice.
Yep.
Right? But I think we all know we receive unsolicited advice on a regular basis. But as a creative, as someone who is trying to do like the best thing that I can do every day, is there value in unsolicited advice? I was going to say it's a rhetorical question, but it's not a rhetorical question because we're going to answer it.
We're going to talk about it.
Ben, do you have any funny let me say this. Ben runs, you guys know this, he runs sound and media for Stone Church, and you're kind of you're the dude.
I'm a dude.
Do you get unsolicited advice from people, congregants, people you work with?
Usually
feel free to use names. No, just
let
kidding.
me call specific people out.
I get a ton of unsolicited advice from Manny.
Yeah.
No,
my boss.
Didn't ask you, Manny.
Not as frequent as you think.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're kind of behind the scenes a little bit. I feel like worship leaders, maybe because or like preachers, because they're in front of people. Yep. They go, oh, you know what song we should do? And it's like, listen, Our God is an Awesome God was great in 99, but not gonna do it.
It's making a comeback.
Kayla, our God is an awesome God. Unsolicited advice. Yeah, I don't know.
There will always be a little wave of it when we try something new, when we change something.
Yeah.
But usually people are very reserved and like, they won't like, they understand kind of like, they don't want to be pushy. They don't want to be that.
You know who's not reserved in a church setting is old people.
You'd be surprised.
They will tell you, you should probably get rid of the drums.
Yeah.
You should probably, I don't know.
Turn it down.
Go ahead and turn it down. And I go,
get rid of the lights.
You could just turn down your hearing aid.
Yeah.
You know, you have the control over that. No, listen, I love old people. I only want to go to a church that is multi-generational.
Yeah.
But they do complain a lot.
They do. We don't get as much. I've gotten some stuff before, but usually they're very, very kind. And if there has been a moment, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, so when I started Northtown, and I've done other. It's happened to me quite frequently in my creative endeavors.
Yeah.
But specifically with Northtown, I've noticed it a lot more. So I buy a coffee shop, and now every time somebody talks to me about a coffee shop, they go, "You know what you should do? Fill in the blank. We should serve this." Or one's like small stuff where it's like, hey, you should get the yellow packets of fake sweetener. And I go, I've got like 4 fake sweeteners over there right now. They go, but the yellow packets are the best. And if you get the yellow packets, I guarantee you there are hardcores out there that will come here purely for the yellow packets. And I go, I appreciate that. But to your point, bring your own yellow packet. Listen.
I will say the people that I usually get, sorry, I just remember this, that I usually get unsolicited advice from, or like they like, hey, maybe do this. Usually it's people I trust. So like,
okay,
most of the time, at least we have a good enough relationship where like if they felt the need to come to me, like I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's hear it.
Sir Ian McKellen. I was hoping you would name her Sir Ian McKellen.
Ian's a great
gender neutral name.
Yeah.
Should be a powerful sorceress.
I think you could. I don't think Ian is actually a gender neutral name, but if you wanted to try to start a trend, I think Ian could be.
Well, Oswin
could possibly was
a boy's name originally.
Oh.
No, don't point.
Oh, so if you want her to have better chances in life, you could call her Gandalf the White.
Salazar.
I will say probably as soon as you guys do become parents officially, you will get a lot of unsolicited advice. I think.
I appreciate our parents for not both sets of our parents. But not being too pushy.
So here's the thing. It happens.
Hey, try feeding it.
There, you go, hey, nobody asked you. This is my kid. And it'll tell me. It'll tell me if it wants to eat. Yes. Which actually I think it will. It starts crying incessantly.
And then you just get down there to that 2-week-old baby, you get in their face and you say, use your words. What flavor?
Hey, Darius. Welcome to the podcast.
Why, hello.
So unsolicited advice. You probably received some unsolicited advice.
No. As a pastor, everyone is extremely respectful and kind. And they never try to tell you things that you already know or give you advice about things that they don't know anything about. That is not something that you experience.
Here's the thing with
I feel like it's the opposite.
Arguing with a pastor. And Darius is not going to say this in fear of offending people, but I will say it as an ex-pastor. If you argue with the pastor, it's like an immediate ticket to hell.
That's true. I remember reading that. I
mean, get out of here, you know?
Actually, sometimes people are arguing with me about theology, and I just start humming. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, hold on. Just keep talking.
You'll notice it.
I'm on the highway to hell. And it just gets louder and louder as they argue.
Darius is just punching tickets, like train tickets. You're like, and here you go.
It just
no, that's not the case. That's not the case. You should actually question your theological pastor to gain insight and to know that he's not leading you, or she is not leading you blind. Into
legally, I have to agree to that.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
But unsolicited advice is out there. Now, here's why I'm bringing this up.
Yep, bring it up.
Is because I was in the URM line buying cups and food for Northtown. And this guy who I don't know, he was in line, complete stranger. He goes, he overhears me say that I'm doing a new spot in Tieton. He goes, I was out in Tieton 20 years ago. He goes, you know what would work out there?
It won't. I already know it won't. You don't even have to say anything else. I know it
if you deliver to the warehouses. And there was that immediate like, bro, I don't know you. You obviously don't know how to run a coffee shop. Like you're not a coffee shop guy. I'm sure that you are a nice person and everything. But then as I'm walking out and I get into my car, I go, actually, that's a pretty good idea. And so I expanded on it too. Idea. I go, if I reach out to the schools and to the warehouses where people are in these places, but they can't get away during our business hours, maybe we can. And so like I had, that's and funny. now I'm starting to think of all of these things where, you're not necessarily looking for advice, but it'll come your way. No, it'll come your way. And I think that you have to be open and humble, because there is definitely the stance that you're like, hey, I love you, but I'm not going to do that. Like, and you just shut off, you just try to be polite, but you shut off their advances. Mm-hmm. They're just, imminent advances. But there are good ideas out there. And Pastor Andy, our youth pastor, Darius and I's youth pastor, he said something when we were in high school. He said, eat the fish, pick the bones. And that's like something, love Andy. There's not a ton that I've taken away from those days, but I repeat the mantra, eat the fish, pick the bones pretty frequently. Also, I'll give him credit as well for find your passion, find your purpose.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Andy was great.
He's got some great compact one-liners.
We were the first youth ministry that Andy had. And if I look back at the first youth ministry that I had, I think may God have mercy on their souls because I was such a bonehead.
Well, you step into something when you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and sometimes you're not great at it.
You're an idiot.
So anyway, but I think eat the fish, pick the bones, and I'm mostly giving Andy a hard time. I don't think
we hate you, Andy Douglas.
Andy
Douglas.
I don't
know you, but
what is it in the Grinch?
He's a Stone Church alum.
Advarcius, Alpha Meus, I
hate you. Hate, double hate, loathe entirely. I know it's not Christmas yet, but How the Grinch Stole Christmas is.
Bro, it started raining. Like, I came back from Clealum just now, and as soon as I got to the top of the mountain, it was pouring rain, and it is dark gray outside. It will not be yellow over here again until May.
I love it.
It's that time of year, baby.
It's turning. But I think that it's... You guys doing Star Wars?
It was
all John Williams.
It's all John Williams. It's all John Williams.
Lord of the Rings. It's all John Williams to me. That's someone who can't tell the score. They go, oh, best original score. It's all John Williams to me.
There was a moment where I was in my last pastor role. I was in my office and my younger brother was visiting me. He was sitting there and my friend Josh came in. He's a doctor. He was off the day. So he was just like popping into the office to say hi to people. So he walks in. I was like, oh, Seth, this is my friend Josh. Josh has read all the way through The Hobbit to the Silmarillion like 35 times. And Seth, I was like, he's the biggest Lord of the Rings fan I've ever met. And my younger brother immediately goes, "Oh no, Lord of the Rings is so dope." It just with no hesitation was one of the top 5 funniest things I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, that is, yeah. That is good.
It's just an absolute stroke of genius.
Did Josh, I mean, what was his face in that moment? Because I've had a similar thing for a guy who jumped Star Wars to Star Trek but without knowing it. And I was like, yeah. I don't like. That's it's fine, but we've been doing Star Wars for the last 15 minutes, and you jump to Star Trek.
Oh, dude, that's the great thing about doing that. It's so mean because it's like gaslighting the person. You make them wonder. They have to guess. Do I correct them or do they know? And then you don't know what to do. Josh goes.
Yeah, funny. It is good. But now he can't even think of Lord of the Rings stuff.
No, I was trying to think in my head, what would I sing? But I mean,
especially if you don't, I think you have to have a certain brashness, right, to make that sort of joke with somebody that you don't know, right? But it only works. That joke specifically only works with someone that you don't know. Because like you said, it is gaslighting. It is like if you're proposing such like excitement and enthusiasm for Lord of the Rings and then doing the wrong thing, where you're like, this guy is either an idiot or
it was the fact that it was like a genius combination of like, oh, I'm so stoked for Lord of the Rings, and then immediately go deep wrong. Sorry, I had to share that story in the moment.
No, that's beautiful.
We were not talking about any of this at all. What were we talking
beautiful.
about?
Unsolicited advice as a pastor.
Unsolicited advice.
In kind of a retrospect way, what you just did there was an unsolicited advice of where we should take this podcast episode. You go, hey, this doesn't have. I know you didn't ask, but this doesn't have legs. Let's do my story instead. No, that's just me trying to get us back on topic.
The unsolicited advice as a pastor thing is good because I will say there are lots of times where people say, "This is really cool. This is really exciting. I think that our church needs this." And there are lots of times that I think, you know what? You're right. Our church does need this.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I often say is, you're right. Our church does need this. How can I equip you? How can I help you to do that?
You should do that. Yeah.
Because that's, I think the hard thing as a pastor is people don't know what your weekly schedule is like. And so usually there's not really any wiggle room.
Well, I was going to say, and schedule. Resources. You're like, hey, we've got 12 Rockstar volunteers and like 15 or 20 like once a monthers. Like your thing is great, but we're tapped out systematically right now.
And you don't want to say that to people because there's no sense in deflating people when they're excited about things. Yeah. So I do often say like, oh, that's so cool. How is there a way that I could help you do that? Do you want to lead that? And there are oftentimes reasonable people are like, oh yeah, actually, you know what? Maybe I should pray about that. Or actually, I wanted to do it anyway. Thank you for asking.
Right. Now you just give them like
permission.
Permission.
Yep.
Agency.
Yep. And then it's not like lip service. If it's a really good idea, I will actually help equip them as much as I can. I wouldn't do that if it was just lip service to someone. If I thought it was a dumb idea, I wouldn't say, oh, you should do that. I would say, oh,
you should do that.
I haven't really thought about
for
that.
For this church.
Yeah. But there are then some people who will say, you'll be like, yeah, like that would be cool. How do you think you could do that? And they'll be like, well, I think if you announce it from the platform and you showed up to it, then people will be really excited. And then I have to be like, that's a hard no.
So we're talking, in generality, we're talking creativity, right? And I think each of the things that we do individually definitely fall under the umbrella of creativity. Right. Something like a pastor or people who are over people and you're like trying to be creative in that, then one part of your job is to equip people and empower people, right? Even as a coffee shop owner, I want my baristas to be creative. And so if they're like, hey,
what grow about a business?
Yeah, like, hey, I created this drink idea. I'm not going to be like, no, that's not my idea. No. I'm like, if you created
strawberry flavored Rockstar. Strawberry flavored Red Bull.
Well, I throw it in their face.
Oh, it stings my eyes.
And never call me again, okay? But like, yeah, so I want them to come up with ideas. I want them to come up with things. And oftentimes, like, they'll present something to me that I never really like thought about. But I'm like, hey, let's run that as a special. Let's see if it works, right? Obviously, as individual creatives, you're not empowering people, or like you don't have the obligation, I suppose. Obligation is not the right word.
It's
just
more
you.
Of just am I going to change this or am I not going to change this? Is this actually a good idea?
And so, I was going to say,
frustrate me.
You have to have the filter. You have one more stage of filters, right? So it's for all of us, ideas come in unsolicited or not.
Solicited.
Yeah.
Or solicited. You have to filter, is this a good idea or is it a bad idea? And then you have to like also say, I don't know where it comes first, but I think you have to say, okay, I'm going to be humble about this. Yeah. And is it, I think ultimately, sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud here.
You're good.
You have a vision for whatever the creative thing is.
Podcast would be so much more boring if you thought silently.
That's a great point. Great point. Hold on. Just hang with us for 30 seconds.
Sorry, I cut you off again.
No. I've almost got the joke ready. So I think you have to, as a creative, you define what your overall vision is for whatever the thing is that you're creating, right?
Yeah.
You've got the physical thing, but what is it that you're trying to accomplish with that physical thing? And then once you have the vision, then you step back and take yourself out of it and be humble about the vision and to say, is the unsolicited advice or solicited advice helping the vision or hurting the vision? Is it like, weighing it down or kind of taking away the focus on the vision? I think that oftentimes, we were joking about the flavored Red Bulls, but like it's been brought up. They go, oh, you should really do this. And I go, listen, I know it sells a lot. I know people like it, but it's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a real coffee shop with real drinks. And I'm trying to not like perpetuate type 2 diabetes in America. Mm-hmm. Other than that, great idea. No. You can drink your 32 ounce Red Bulls. It's fine. Dude, I honestly, someone said they wanted a 32 ounce iced latte with like 8 shots in it. I go, hey man, like respectfully, I'm not going to serve that to you because, I don't know. It's like an alcohol server, like not over serving somebody. I go, I can do a 24 ounce with 4 shots in it. And like, I'm just looking out for you. I'm sorry. And then also, 4 shots kind of where you feel like the cap, like for I think, especially at a time, but then also like a 32
I don't think
ounce.
I've ever had more than 4 shots of coffee.
A 32 ounce latte. I think a quad shot is like a standard.
32 ounces.
That's going to pack a punch. Dude. Picture someone with a quart of milk and a straw walking around drinking their quart of milk. Outside of diabetes and like your heart for caffeine, that's got to sit so heavy on your gut. You go, well, it's 2%, so fine. Fine. Dude, a quart of milk? Like frat boys have died from drinking that much milk at a time. And you're just like, go ahead and add 8 shots to it. Anyway. We have a responsibility is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. You have to have your vision. You have to be humble about it. Take your ego out of it. I think ego hurts creativity, ego hurts,
Yes.
so much stuff. And then you have to decide. You go, is this helping my vision or is it hurting my vision? And then can you implement it, right? So we're doing deliveries in Tieton because I think it helps the business. I think it gets coffee to people who can't come in. It's a very unique sort of thing. I would prefer, obviously, to come and hang out in the cafe, but on a Friday morning when you're teaching the youths, you can't get away from your classroom. Like, you can't have the second graders like start working on a project and you come run to the cafe really quick.
It's 7 a.m. and you're picking the fields.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Picking the fields is a euphemism for. Is a euphemism.
Well, we don't want to get into it, but
you've got dingleberries. Sorry, I was in there picking the fields. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean. I
was gonna say that I just recently had. Oh, I think one of the ways to get over the fear of unsolicited advice is to solicit advice. And then, like, if you solicit people's advice and you get a trusted group of people around you that you regularly ask for advice and feedback, then when you get unsolicited advice, you're going to say, oh, I actually already heard this and processed it. Like, and that also helps your ego. I have a super hard time with that because I like preaching, and preaching is like the creative thing that I do that nobody, like if someone says, hey, what do you think about preaching about this or preaching this way? I wouldn't say, oh, you should do that.
Right.
They're not going to. That's my job.
Yeah.
And in 2025, I'll preach essentially like 3 out of every 4 weeks. So it's not only my job, but when people say like, have you ever thought about preaching this way? I'll be like, no, I preach the way I preach. But at the same time, the what I need to do is I need to solicit advice and submit like the plans for my preaching to people that I trust. Yeah. And not just people who are better preachers than me, but just people who care about preaching. Period.
Well, I also think too that there is definitely value when your congregation is saying, hey, you should do like a message about this. And you're like, oh, I haven't really thought about that. Like,
it's true.
Let me begin to process and see what a sermon series would do, because clearly, or if like you all of a sudden you have like 5 people bring up the same thing and you go, oh, maybe we should do a message series about that. Right. So that is like, and then there's something, they're like, hey, you should do a 30-week series on Revelation. You go, yeah, I might not do that, but we'll do maybe a message on it. But sometimes where you're like, oh shoot, you're right. Like I haven't processed, I don't know, fill in the blank.
Yeah. To the people who ask for a 30-week series on Revelation, I would do it. It would just be, they wouldn't hear any of the stuff that they wanted to hear.
Yeah, totally.
Because they would be waiting for me to tell them who the Antichrist is, and I'd be like, "Well, the Antichrist is anything that is Antichrist. It's a euphemistic metaphor for things that are Antichrist, and in our current context,
it's Kamala." Wait, what were you going to say? And in our current context, no, guys. Come on.
They're calling her anti-Kamala. That's what they're calling her. They're calling her Kamala Christ.
She needs to take a pause herself. But she's not putting the Kamala in her own name into practice.
She didn't just fall off of a coconut tree. She rose from the pit of hell. That's where she's from. Not from a coconut tree. She's from a Satan tree. That's what they're saying. They're saying she fell off the Satan tree.
It's not what I'm saying. It's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. My people are telling me. They're telling me they saw her in the tree. They're saying the devil walked by. He shook the tree. She fell down. He made her into a drink. He took the top off of the coconut. He put a straw in it. He added colada. He added
a Kamala colada.
Kamalada.
A Kamalada. All right. Sorry. That is an amazing way to end.
The best way.
If you guys were curious, we think that you should heed advice wherever it comes from. Be humble about it. Stay true to your vision. Know that Kamala is the Antichrist. And
I do not endorse that. Do not endorse that. I don't
think that.
I don't endorse any presidential candidate either. But I.
That's not what we were talking about before we started recording. On our next podcast, we're going to talk about what satire is and how you should or should not be offended. Man, we love you guys. Thank you so much.
Has satires on it.
Ew. Next week you're gonna get a whole of a lot more of that.
A hell of a lot more. Where Kamala's from?
A whole of a lot more.
A whole of a lot more.
I did say I mixed a whole lot more of that and a hell of a lot more, and it came out a whole of a lot more, which could also be very dirty. If you took it that way. Well, speaking of tires,
they're calling him Dirty Dread Pirate Roberts. That's what they're calling him.
Speaking of tires, the wheels have officially come off of this podcast episode. Yeah, we love you guys. We will be back next Monday for more New Way Stories.
Maybe we'll talk Joker too.
Maybe we will.
It came out. Apparently, it's really bad. We'll see. We're gonna find out.
Folly a deuce. Joker, the deuce.
Folly a deuce. Joker, dropping a deuce.
That's apparently what they did.
That's actually, I think, Warner Bros. Vision statement for the DC universe. Warner Brothers dropping hot deuces.
You know that's not good, right? You go, it's like we're like red hot. We're dropping hot deuces.
Hot crap. Our apologies to James Gunn. We anticipate the hot deuces you're going to drop.
We anticipate good things. All right, guys. See you later.